can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat Sleep Boxing Repeat.
Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. I'm delighted to be joined by Danny as we are in final prediction mode for the big fight happening in Glasgow on Saturday, May 24th. The return of the Tartan Tornado, Josh Taylor, as he's back, making his welterweight debut against Ekow Essuman. It's a fight we're all looking forward to, I'm sure. I speak on behalf of the majority of boxing fans. Good to see Josh Taylor back in action. Um, Respectable opponent as well, I think, for his return, for his debut up at 147 pounds. And yeah, few good fights on the undercard as well. Danny, appreciate you jumping on as always, mate. Take it away and tell me what your final prediction is for Josh Taylor against Ekow Essuman.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Really looking forward to this one. The Josh Taylor move up to 147 pounds has been something that's been talked about for a long while, something that's been speculated on, and we're going to see that come Saturday night. As you say, Essuman, more than respectable opponent, only had that one slip up against Harry Scarf, who very, very tricky fighter. Very awkward style not like Josh Taylor's at all, so you can't draw too much into that. I think it'll be a tough enough fight for Josh Taylor. Essuman's strong, fit, technically decent. He sort of adopts a more entertaining approach now than he did maybe in the earlier stages of his career. We saw those great fights against Owen Cooper recently. I think Josh Taylor will win on points. I think it'll be competitive, perhaps even quite close. But I think the home advantage, those extra £7 will make him stronger than he was in his last few fights at 140, maybe a bit fitter down the stretch. And I think he's a classier fighter than Essuman, and I think that'll see him enough to win the majority of the rounds. Although I do think Essuman will have success, and even a pick'em fight, even a controversial decision wouldn't surprise me. I think it is going to be a real test for Josh Taylor.
Yeah, very interesting. Made a nice summary there, I think. Yeah, as I said, I totally agree. He said it at the top as well. I mean, more than respectable opponent, as you mentioned. Harry Scarf, the only real blemish on Ekow Essuman's resume. And if you look at, what Harry Scarf went on to do after that, like, oh, yes, he lost his last fight to Conor Walker, but like won every round up until getting stopped. As you said, horrible style to fight against. No matter who you are, you won't look good against Harry Scarf, I don't think. So yeah, that's a good point you make. Very different to Josh Taylor, and it's all about, let's be honest, it's all about how Taylor looks at 147 here. Like, we've been crying out for years maybe to see Taylor up at welterweight, to be honest. Yes, I understood that some of the big fights were still there at super lightweight for him, but I think it was long overdue, his move up to welterweight. I'm excited to see it. Hopefully he still has a lot left in the tank. I think he does as well. I complete part I'm almost in total agreement with everything you said. And points victory, I think, is the maybe the smart prediction here. However, I'm going to go for I'm actually going to go for a Josh Taylor stoppage. I'm going to go for a stoppage in the second half of the fight. I believe this is a 10 rounder. So yeah, somewhere between round 6 and 10, I'll go for Josh Taylor. Maybe even right at the end, like in around 8, 9, 10 stoppage. I think, as you said, it'll be competitive. I think Essuman could frustrate Taylor maybe early as well. To pick up a few rounds, Taylor maybe come and do it in the middle, and then, in my opinion, he'll get on top. And yeah, I don't know whether I'm maybe saying that in hope of a stoppage for Josh Taylor because I want to see him in these big fights at welterweight. But yeah, I'm going to imagine slightly towards a very late stoppage. For the Scotsman in front of his home crowd. So yeah, it's a fight we're looking forward to, and fingers crossed, it lives up to the hype. Just one more thing, mate, before we round off. Obviously, both given our predictions there, but I kind of do want to ask you about Josh Taylor. He's the man we're both predicting wins on Saturday night. Obviously, it depends on the method of victory, but if he is to win, what do you want to see him do next before the end of the year? Do you think he could fight for a world title at welterweight straight away, depending on how he fares? Potential trilogy with Jack Catterall. Where's your head at with Josh Taylor if he wins for his next move?
I would like to see him push on towards the world title. I remember before a different video we filmed on Josh Taylor looking at the rankings, and I think it's the IBF that Essuman's ranked maybe fourth with. So a win over him would put him right up there in terms of that governing body. Obviously, Jack Catterall stated he's moving up to 147 as well, and there has been a lot of talk about a potential trilogy. I mean, I wouldn't mind that, but I've had my fill of Taylor Catterall, the back and forth, the fights. I thought Catterall won both fights, so in my opinion, there's not too much need for a trilogy. But depending on the lay of the land, it could well be the biggest fight that's there to be made for both of them. And it's not as if I'd be, dramatically opposed to it, but I would just rather see both men go on and, try and become world champions at 147 and then maybe make the unification, although that might be wishful thinking. But yeah, a world title shot, although you're saying that obviously Barrios is fighting Pacquiao, Ennis has got mandatory obligations and looks to be looking towards unification. So maybe it will be the Catterall trilogy.
Yeah, I think it depends on the lay of the land as well. I'd like to see Josh Taylor catapult his way back up to the world honors. I think he doesn't. It's not as if he needs a few wins, in my opinion, to get back up there. Like former undisputed champion at super lightweight. Yes, he's lost his last two, against officially his last two against Catterall and Lopez. You could argue, he lost three with obviously the first Catterall fight as well. But yeah, I mean, former undisputed champion. If he looks good here and looks fresh at the weight, I don't see why he couldn't maybe get a shot. Will someone, take a voluntary against him? I'm not so sure. But yeah, if it's not a world title shot, I mean, I think I kind of agree. I had Catterall winning both previously, so there's no real need for seeing it again. But then you could make a whole narrative. Like, could Josh Taylor make a narrative of the fact that the only reason he won them is because I was dead at the weight? Obviously that's becoming a bit of an after-timer, because at the time he said the weight wasn't an issue, but now that he is up at 147, if he looks good, if he looks fresh, he maybe use that as an excuse, and the narrative's there, I suppose. And if it makes money, it makes sense, I suppose. So we shall see. But first, he has to get through Ekow Essuman. We're both predicting he does that. But guys, let us know in the comments your thoughts on whether Josh Taylor gets picked off his welterweight career in style, whether he wins via stoppage on points, or if Ekow Essuman pulls off what would be an upset. And yeah, all but ends Josh Taylor potential becoming world champion in two weight divisions if he ends those hopes. As always, please do subscribe to the channel if you're not doing so already. And yeah, stay tuned for more content week after week in the boxing world. Danny, thanks very much for joining me, mate. Speak to you again soon.
Cheers, Paul.